Crypto Kids, welcome back to another video. Bitcoin is preparing for a very large move, and today we're going to be breaking down where this move could potentially head to. However, we do have some breaking news. A couple of weeks back, if you remember, we discussed about Genesis being cleared to sell approximately $1.6 billion worth of Grayscale shares, and this is of course going to impact the market. And finally, it looks like that they may have started selling. That's why over the past 2 days we've been seeing huge outflows from Grayscale, totaling to $600 million the day before, and yesterday $492 million. And this is causing net outflows on the ETFs, even though like IBIT is purchasing $600 million per day. So all of that we will get into, its potential impacts. We have more breaking news to cover, of course, but most importantly, we will be focusing on the Bitcoin price. We have funding rates to go through, and meme coins are back at it again. Dogecoin army. Dogecoin is smashing. If you guys have been watching the channel for many months, ever since like summer last year, I've been voicing how bullish I am on Dogecoin and why I thought that in this bull market we would be seeing a huge run on it. And a lot of my altcoin holdings are in Dogecoin, so I'm personally very happy. But for all of that and much more, make sure to stay tuned until the end of today's video. Smash the notification bell because you do not want to miss any updates in a time like this. And let's get this video to over 700 likes. I think that's possible. But without further ado, gents, let's go into the price of Bitcoin on the 12-hourly time frame. Now, just a recap, we entered a long position when Bitcoin broke above this inverse head and shoulders pattern in our $10,000 trading challenge over on Bitflex. And I'm still planning on keeping this position open. I'm not going to close it. I'm not closing my personal long positions too. I only closed my Ethereum spot holdings, which I shared a couple of days back over on Telegram, because Ethereum basically smashed above $3,500, and I felt that there was a lot of euphoria going on. So I sold my Ethereum and I converted this into USDT. I'm now looking to invest this USDT into altcoins to prepare for the altcoin season. So that's what I'm doing in terms of my trades. And the reason why I'm not selling my Bitcoin position and not closing it is because, well, you see, the trend is our friend. I was at a conference with a bunch of 50-year-old huge traditional traders, and I learned so much there, and unless the trend flips bearish, then there's no point in selling. At this point, the trend is very much bullish, and on top of this, there's something else that is making me very excited, because in the previous bull market, Bitcoin, when we reached the all-time high at 69K, we had very little volume going on. You can see here, when Bitcoin was trading at the 69K all-time high, the volume was very little. But if we compare it to now, we have so much bullish volume coming in. Last time it was bearish volume too. So there is buying pressure on Bitcoin. And if the price of an asset increases with positive volume and with positive open interest, this is very good for that asset. Hence, I think that Bitcoin will be able to smash the previous all-time high in the upcoming weeks, and that's the reason why I'm not going to be closing this position or my personal holdings. And guys, by the way, if you want to be accumulating Bitcoin before the crazy super cycle starts, you can head over to the description below and check out Bitflex using this link to be able to win an Apple Watch giveaway, which we're holding for this month and this month only. But guys, if you've been accumulating Bitcoin over the past 2 months, I've been mentioning that 85 days left until the halving is typically the best time to be accumulating Bitcoin, and so far it's been working out very nicely. And in this conference, I actually had access to the Bloomberg terminal, and the Bloomberg terminal backtests every single indicator and oscillator available for Bitcoin, and you can see regardless of whichever date you switch to, buying and holding Bitcoin has always been the most profitable thing to be thing to do. So yeah, congrats if you just buy, hold, and DCA. It looks like it is the most successful mathematically. But jumping back over into the Bitcoin price, we are forming a bullish pennant on the 4-hourly. Now, the question is, does Bitcoin have enough momentum within it to break above this bullish pennant, or are we going to form a double top? Now, I think this outflows are a little bit bearish, and going into Monday, I don't think too much will be happening over the weekend, but as soon as we hit Monday, I think this Genesis selling could give some bearish sentiment to the market, but it's important to note that it's not as bad as it sounds. The reason being is, if we switch over to this tab, here we have a very nice explanation. So the Genesis selling pressure is going to be an in-kind redemption. Now, the ETFs right now are cash creates, meaning that if you sell the ETF, you get cash in return. But it looks like Genesis is going to have to purchase Bitcoin from the market, Gemini. There's an issue with Gemini too. So Gemini had a earning program and they had to stop the earning program, and everybody that basically got their Bitcoin stuck in there, they're also going to get compensated. So there's a couple of things going on, but the impact is not going to be as significant as people are expecting it to be, because it's going to be an in-kind redemption from Genesis's side. So they will have to be buying Bitcoin anyways from the market. So it's kind of going to offset it, but from my understanding, the Gemini one is a little bit concerning, but overall in the macro, I think Grayscale's holdings are diminishing, and IBIT and the other ETFs are continuing to accumulate. So maybe we're going to have a little bit of a shakeup, potentially reverse to 58K, but I think the market is strong. So it's, even if we do, I think that in the upcoming weeks, we will be heading towards the all-time high level. So if Bitcoin does dip to 58.2, I wouldn't be surprised, or 58.5. If we do, then that's a new buying opportunity from where I'm standing, and then I think we'll go for the all-time high. As Bitcoin broke above this trend line that we've been creating ever since 2015, and I mentioned if Bitcoin does break above this successfully, then it would be easy for us to hit back the all-time high. Of course, nothing in this video is financial advice. These are just my personal TA and opinions only. Always come to your own conclusions, but it's nice to see what other traders are looking at, what other analysts are looking at. In terms of resistance on the top levels, I have 63.2K that I'm looking towards and seeing how it holds up. So far, we've tested it. We've seen a little bit of a correction, but the next couple of days are going to determine how we act here in the market. And then I have $65,000 to $66,000. That's also going to give us good resistance, but ultimately enough, once we break 69, a lot of the retail is going to be coming back. And remember, Bitcoin is entering into this overbought region. Historically speaking, whenever on the monthly time frame Bitcoin enters overbought in the RSI, we pump a very, very significant amount. Now, let's say, even though this is diminishing, you can see from 5,800%, we've fallen down to 1.4 and then to 175%. Even if Bitcoin pumps by 40-50%, that's enough to break the previous all-time high. So I'm super bullish. The super trend is also bullish. In the macro, everything looks good. But in terms of Ethereum, I did take profit on Ethereum because it did break above our 3.15 level, and then it did briefly hit 3.5K as well. And as soon as we hit 3.5K, I closed a majority of my Ethereum holdings. But what's incredible is that Dogecoin is breaking like crazy, and it is really skyrocketing now to 15 cents. I'm not selling. I believe in Dogecoin in the macro. I am a little bit emotional with Dogecoin, so it probably is smart to potentially take some profits off of the table right now, but I'm going to hold. Something to note though is that if Memecoins start pumping, which they are because Shiba Inu is also pumping, there's this new token called WIF that's also pumping. Bonk has gone up by 124%, Pepe has gone up by 273%. Whenever meme coins pump, it is sometimes an indication that, okay, the rally is over. I would be looking out for it. I don't think it's a very, very strong thing to be analyzing at this moment in time, but keep it at the back of your mind. If meme coins start to pump, usually it indicates a top in the market. But funding rates is something that I've been looking at. So in the Telegram community, I also mentioned that we should be looking out for 0.1 to 0.08 funding rates. And if the market does hit that, it's possible to see a reversal. So when Bitcoin hit 64K, funding rates were almost at 0.2%, which makes keeping long positions open very, very costly. And that's why we reversed back down to the 58K level, mostly caused by Coinbase as well at the same time. But when Bitcoin hit 49K after the spot ETF approvals on January 11th, the funding rates also hit similar levels, and that's why the market corrected by 20-25%. It is something to be keeping note of. In the previous bull market, we also saw similar funding rates, and that called the top. So we just need to be cautious here. I think Bitcoin does have some more momentum to go, but a mini short-term correction to $58,500, in my opinion, is very much possible. In the long term, however, if we go into on-chain data, we can see that long-term holders are beginning to sell and short-term holders are beginning to buy. This usually indicates the start of a massive bull market, and when the curve stops and begins to curve downwards in terms of the short-term buyers, that indicates the top of the bull market. So this is bullish. The market looks good. And what we can see here from this on-chain data is that there is a lot of demand for buying Bitcoin. Let's see if it loads. It mentions $60,500. This may have changed, but if it doesn't load, then I'll save this for the next video. Oh, okay, there it is. Thankfully, it loaded because it is very important. We can analyze exactly where people are buying. So here we can see that there is so much buying pressure at the $59,000 to $61,000 area. So if Bitcoin, where we're at right now, there is a lot of addresses buying, but equally 61.8 to 62.89 is where people are selling, and we're in between in the market equilibrium. So there's a lot of people selling both on the upside, but more people buying in the bottom ranges. This could cause the market to correct a little bit. So that covers my technical analysis, not fundamental, but on-chain data. Now we can go into the breaking news for Bitcoin, of course, other than the Gemini and Grayscale situation. So speaking of Coinbase, Coinbase is back up. They had a 10x surge in traffic going into Coinbase. Now that retail is realizing, okay, I'm in a lot of profits right now, they're logging back into their accounts and seeing that their money is there, and they've maybe even made some on top of it. I've had a lot of friends at this point in time saying that, God, Bitcoin is pumping, what should I do? Should I be selling, etc.? So retail are slowly coming back. It's not at the fastest pace possible, but do keep in mind they are slowly engaging with their accounts again. These are not new entrants into the market. These are people that have bought Bitcoin previously and now are logging back into their exchange accounts. We can see that Ethereum is super bullish. You're seeing massive exchange flows, meaning people are buying Ethereum and keeping it in their wallets. This could cause the price of Ethereum to further surge, but I do expect some sort of a correction going into the Denkun upgrade that's going to be happening in 2 weeks' time. This is crazy. So this is the famous stock to flow model that Plan B came up with. We can see that Bitcoin has had the first red dot, which indicates a bull market. And whenever the first red dot appears, Bitcoin, well, it tends to have a parabolic further run towards the upside. And this is in line with creating a new all-time high between, in my opinion, the $120,000 to $130,000 levels. I think Bitcoin will hit 90 to 95K, and then we'll see a mini correction and then potentially head towards the $100,000 to $120,000 levels. That's my personal prediction. This is incredibly bullish, and it's so bullish that I'm going to leave a like on it. This is outside of crypto, but also important. Elon Musk, he was one of the founders of OpenAI, which is the company that built ChatGPT, of course, and he's suing Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, for breach of contract, citing that the company is no longer open source and non-profit. So this is something to be keeping in mind of in the AI world. It's scary because of the mass control that we're probably going to be under with everything being AI and the people behind this AI feeding the information to it. This is interesting data that I came across. So the people, this is like looking across crypto, and 60% of American investors in crypto are Gen Z or millennials. So the people engaged in crypto are right now the younger generation, but thanks to the ETFs, this is going to be pushing towards Gen X and the baby boomers who control most of the money around the world. So finally, the Craig Wright trial is over. I need to catch up with the entire thing, but the conclusion is that Craig Wright is basically not Satoshi Nakamoto. The Texas Blockchain Council's lawsuit successfully stopped the Biden administration from government data collection on Bitcoin miners, so that the mining is now, there was a lot of pressure on the miners. It looks like that the miners are free to continue as they were. That's bullish for the network itself because most of the mining is controlled in the United States. Coinbase, the ranking of Coinbase in the App Store has skyrocketed from 370 on the finance category to 163, meaning that people are searching for Coinbase and re-downloading it on their phones. And remember, there are only 1.35 million Bitcoin left to be mined over the next 100 years. If we look at the total intake into the ETFs, we've seen 100,000 Bitcoin being accumulated by the ETFs in just 1 month. So picture this, right? If we just multiply that by 12, you get approximately 1.2 million Bitcoin. However, we will only have 1.35 million Bitcoin more to be mined in the next 100 years or so. So the supply and demand clearly does not match up, and just because of that fundamental economics, the price of Bitcoin should be increasing. And additionally, the Fed is not doing too well. You can see how basically how much money they're paying in terms of interest for the national debts. The national debt is hitting new levels, new highs, and this is not sustainable enough. So eventually, the value of the United States dollar is going to devalue, and Bitcoin inversely is going to increase, because we're seeing in Nigeria, for example, the Nigerian naira is hitting all-time lows. So Bitcoin is hitting all-time highs against it, without there much being to Bitcoin new that is causing this price movement towards the upside. Of course, the current surge in price from the ETFs, etc., are helping, but the Nigerian naira hitting all-time lows is another important factor. So that's something to keep in mind. And if the value of the United States dollar decreases, then Bitcoin will just start shooting upwards. That's why if we have an external event like that, then Bitcoin could be $1 million for one Bitcoin, right? It's just depending on the relative scale. Grayscale spot ETF is now on the New York Stock Exchange, and it's on the, I've actually been there and it's pretty cool. The aura is amazing, so that's very nice. And the BlackRock IBIT ETF has been launched in Brazil, gaining more exposure to it. And of course, speaking of BlackRock, their IBIT ETF became the fastest ever to hit $10 billion in total assets, which is mind-blowing. This is pretty crazy. Remember the banking crisis that was happening last year. We're seeing the New York Community Bank, which acquired the collapsed Signature Bank, fall down by 20% in stock value. If banks continue to struggle because of high interest rates, we could be seeing the banking sector go down. And if the government has to bail them out again, they're going to have to print more money, and that will devalue the United States dollar. Therefore, Bitcoin does benefit from this very positively, and I am expecting Bitcoin to increase if we see more tightening and more pressure on the monetary system. Bank of America and Wells Fargo are going to offer Bitcoin to ETF clients, Bitcoin ETFs to their clients. We've been seeing from Matt Hoogan from Bitwise, he's been saying that look, wirehouses, and wirehouses are like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, they're going to be offering the ETFs to their clients. And once that starts to happen, we're just going to be seeing insane buying pressure, and that's going to add to the total inflows, which is incredible. As I said, the national debt is increasing. What was very interesting that happened yesterday was that the CEO of Vanguard retired. People are saying, oh, this is what happens if you don't take in the Bitcoin ETF, but no, that's not the reason. So I just wanted to address that very quickly. Funnily enough, Jim Cramer said that given the success of the Bitcoin ETFs, it's pretty obvious that an Ethereum ETF will soon bloom. And given his track record, now everybody's like, pack your bags, people. Guess it ain't happening anytime soon. So yeah, honestly, I think that with the Ethereum ETF, it will happen eventually, but I think there's 2 years or so of a time duration for it to happen. We need at least a DCM futures listing. We need something to be available on the market before we see the big names pushing spot ETFs out of it. So I do think it's going to happen, but there's more pressure than any time before, given the success and the amount of money Wall Street is making from it. Bitcoin overtook the Russian ruble to become the 14th largest currency in the world. Super, super bullish. And retail is getting back, even though it's not quick, they are getting back. And once they do come back fully, I think it will cause the price of Bitcoin to surge above the previous all-time high. And we can see here when Bitcoin pumped to 63, 64K, this was the transaction or the order book in terms of a visualized perspective. So you can see the United States, I believe that's around New York, where most of the volume is coming in. We see UK, mostly London probably. We're seeing Europe over there. We're seeing South Korea, or Japan, which is, of course, the region where most of the volume for Bitcoin does come from in terms of derivatives volume. And we see Australia a little bit too. This was the highlight of my week. I actually got to meet John Bollinger, the creator of the Bollinger Bands. What an incredible guy. I look up to him incredibly. He's one of my biggest idols in the trading space. And we can see that the social risk is still low. This looks at the total YouTube views over time. And in the previous bull market, you can see surged interest for crypto. Apologies for my dog. But retail clearly isn't back, and they're not searching for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies on YouTube yet. And to finally end off, because I know it's been a long video, Bitcoin will have to hit $79,000 to reach a new all-time high in United States dollar purchasing power terms, because remember, ever since the previous all-time high, the United States dollar has experienced inflation, right? And given the adjustment to inflation, if Bitcoin hits 79K, it's going to have the same monetary effect as Bitcoin hitting 69K back in 2021. In technical perspective, I don't think it makes too big of a difference. I'll get back to you on that. I'll ask some of my mentors, but it is an interesting data to be mentioned regardless. Ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed that video. Have an awesome weekend, and I will see you all on the next video very soon. Make sure to watch the videos on the end screen, especially the one which says buy 0.1 Bitcoin and become rich, because it explains and goes through why fundamentally Bitcoin is such an important asset and why it's revolutionary. Ladies and gents, take care, have a wonderful day, and I will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.